Welcome to Recycling Raindrops. I am Lily Browning. I am the Florida Friendly Landscaping Program Coordinator for Hernando County Utilities here in Hernando County. Here are the 9 principles of Florida Friendly Landscaping. And in today's class, we're going to cover the last 3, number 7, 8, and 9. Recycle, reduce stormwater runoff, and protect the waterfront. We're going to talk about the different ways that you can recycle the rain that nature gives to your yard. Basically, whatever rain that nature brings us, we want to try and keep it there in our yard and let it infiltrate back down into the aquifer, which is the best storage place for our water here in Central Florida. One of the easiest ways to do that is to make sure your yard has pervious surfaces as compared to impervious surfaces. As many surfaces that allow water to seep through and go into the ground instead of running off. We want to reduce stormwater runoff. We want it to soak down into the soil. So there are various ways, some expensive, some not, that you can do that. If you are replacing your driveway, pavers or bricks are a great way to go. If you live out in the country, even just gravel for driveways is a wonderful way to go. You can turn your backyard into an oasis, like this picture in the middle, but you see every surface there allows water to seep through. And you can turn just various walkways, make sure that they allow the water to go through. You don't have to have cement walkways. If you're creating new walkways in your yard, you can use mulch, you can use shell, you can use gravel. The more surface area you have that allows water to go through, the more you prevent stormwater runoff. Another really simple thing to do is to look at your downspouts, if you have them on your house. Are they sending the water right down your driveway, right into the street? One thing that does is doesn't allow it to water your yard. It just leaves and goes away. Another thing that does is it becomes stormwater runoff. So that water is going to collect every piece of pollution, every particle of pollution it can find as it goes down the street, and it's going to end up in the nearest waterway. So we want to prevent that. We want to save our waterways. So one of the easiest ways to do that is if you have a downspout, redirect it so it doesn't leave your yard, so it doesn't go pouring down the driveway. Let your lawn soak up that water. And as this picture shows here, they've created a system so that it doesn't create ruts. That you can be creative, you can send it to a rain garden, which we'll talk about in a little bit. There are many ways to keep that water that nature gave you in your yard. Another way we'll talk about, because this is probably the biggest water user, at least here in Central Florida, and that is our turf. So we're going to talk about the ways to handle that. You can reduce your turf areas that you have in your yard, or you can utilize turf that survives on natural rainfall. You can let your turf tell you when to water instead of just watering on a schedule because it's your day to water. And we also need you to follow the watering rules. Let's look at that first one, reduce turf areas. We look at our typical Florida yard and Florida house, and we are programmed to think we have to have turf in this area, and maybe the little square up by the house, between the house and the sidewalk, that's where bedding plants go. We need to teach ourselves to color outside of the lines and to get rid of that green crayon. Well, we can have it for leaves on our plants. but that entire palette does not need to be colored green as in turf. So think outside of those lines like they've done here. The more you expand plant beds that survive on natural rainfall or micro irrigation, the less water you will need to be putting onto your turf. If you have areas where turf just won't grow, it's just been a struggle the entire time you've had that property, maybe just decide, well, let's just put something else there instead of turf. Let's create a landscape bed. Let's create a walkway, a patio, plant a tree there, put some bunch grasses there. Let's do something different other than turf. Or you can utilize turf that survives on natural rainfall. This is my yard right here. It looks best, at the end of August, beginning of September because of all the rains. I do not put any effort really into this yard, and maybe some people will say, yeah, I can see that. But to me, I don't choose to spend my time, energy, or money on having the perfect lawn. So I picked this up from somebody else. Well, these two sayings from both from different employees from the University of Florida. One of them was, we need to remind ourselves. I think in a lot of ways we have it backwards in our heads. We need to remind ourselves, what is irrigation for? Irrigation is to supplement rainfall, not the other way around. And I really think we've got that backwards. I personally don't use any irrigation, and I have a mostly Bahia grass lawn, maybe not even mostly, maybe a half Bahia grass lawn. The rest is various weeds. And I picked up from somebody else. She calls her lawn a freedom lawn. So I took that and ran with it. I have a freedom lawn. I'm free from worrying about it. I'm free from watering it. I get it mowed. That's really about it. I spread some more Bahia grass seed around early in the year. You can do that every 3 or 4 years. Overseeded it. But it has weeds, but those weeds attract butterflies. And diversity is always a good thing in any kind of life. It's even better for the lawns to have, some weeds here and there, to have some diversity instead of a monoculture. So Bahia grass lawns are the type of lawns you can get here in Central Florida that will survive once established. It will survive on natural rainfall. It'll turn brown if there hasn't been a lot of rain. If we're in a drought, it'll turn brown in the winter, but it'll always come right back. Some people don't like it because it puts up tall seed heads and has an open growth habit that again lets those weeds in. But it's the choice that I make. I want one of those freedom lawns. Now, as I mentioned, your turf can talk to you. Here we're talking about Floratam, St. Augustine lawns. When it needs watered, it will tell you. The turf can talk to you, and the ways that it does that is those blades, those grass blades, will start folding in half, such as pictured here. It's trying to conserve water and starting to dehydrate. If you see that, or if you walk across it and your footprints remain for a little while, it's starting to get dehydrated. If you see those signs, then you'll know the next time my watering day comes around, if it hasn't rained, I'll go ahead and give it some water. And speaking of watering days, if you're in Hernando County, here are our permanent watering restrictions. If your address ends in a 0 or a 1, then your day is Monday. And I say day, I maybe should say evening, because the days, the times that you're allowed to water are before 8 a.m. or after 6. Those are the times. That's an or. That is not an and. And those are the times Florida-friendly landscaping would recommend as close to that 8 a.m. deadline as possible. So if it's going to take you 4 hours to do your whole lawn, have it come on at 4 in the morning and finish up by 8 a.m. so that it dries up and you get that water off the leaf blades fairly quickly. If it's your lawn only needs 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch of water delivered to it each watering event. And as I said, that doesn't have to be once a week. We've had plenty of rain lately. No one, in the beginning of September here in 2020, no one really needs to have their irrigation system on right now. Just make sure that it gets that 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch. And you can set out little cans where you've measured it to that amount in each zone, and then time how long it takes to fill up those little cans, and you'll know how long to set each zone. Rain sensors are a great thing to have to help you know how much rain that your lawn already got. And rain sensors like this picture, this one in the middle, is very common. It's also very common for them not to be functioning properly. So you might want to check yours out. Make sure it's still facing up, hasn't been turned sideways. Make sure it's not under an eave. Make sure a tree branch hasn't grown over it. And how they operate is, at least this particular kind, there's a cork inside that swells up. You can set it for that 1/2 inch, for that 3/4 of an inch. It swells up, it sets off, you know, a little electric message to your irrigation clock. Don't turn on right now. Nature gave us plenty of rain. That will help with your water bill as well. On the left corner on the bottom is Dr. Dukes from the University of Florida. He's demonstrating a soil moisture sensor. They're about 300 times more efficient than your standard rain sensor that gets mounted on your house there. They are a little more expensive as well, but they are coming down in price. They make them wireless now. So what happens is you install it in the ground and it will send a message to your system. This soil here has enough moisture, don't turn on. Or we're very dry over here, you know, go ahead and run the system. That is a much more efficient system. And they have them so you can operate them remotely as well. So they're really advancing in these techniques. And of course, any kind of little rain gauge, so you know, oh wow, we got that 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch. Maybe I'll just go in and manually turn my system off until I know it needs the water again. Or you could create a landscape that survives on natural rainfall, which is basically what I have with my Freedom lawn, my Bahia and Weed lawn. This picture here is of a home in the Villages that is 100% native. It was designed by the homeowner, who happens to be a landscape architect. But you can find his yard if you Google Flip My Florida Yard and look up Going Native in the Villages. You'll see Mr. Turnipseed's yard here, his entirely native yard. But you don't have to, what he did was a wonderful thing, but you don't have to go all out like he did. Every little step we make, every little corner of our yard that is going to survive on natural rainfall, we're that much further ahead. Now here's an interesting and fun project to get into, and I do have classes just on rain gardens. You can look back through my videos and you'll find one. I've changed the name to Rain Gardens to Aquifer Recharge Gardens, because that really just describes what they are. They're not ponds. They're not water gardens. They are a A garden you set aside in your yard that is in a low depression and that collects water and allows it to infiltrate the soil to go back into the aquifer so that it does not leave your yard and turn into that stormwater runoff. The idea of it is not to hold water, but to let it seep through. Depending on the slope of your landscape, if it's a fairly flat slope, then 4 to 6 inches deep is more than enough. And what the dirt that you have dug out, you use to create a berm on the high side to stop the water from leaving your yard. You can fill it up with plants. This says native plants. Native plants are great. They're not necessary to a rain garden. Native and or Florida friendly would work great. That like wet feet or dry feet. What you want to do is search around your yard and find where the water is trying to leave. Usually maybe it's leaving your downspout and then going out of your yard. You want to stop it before it goes out of your yard. And this just happens to be a beautiful and attractive way you can do that. The function of a rain garden, a lot of them are kidney shaped like this. 10 by 15 is usually a standard size. They recharge the local aquifer by increasing the amount of water that filters into the ground. They reduce the amount of urban pollutants. As I said, if you're not allowing that storm water to run off from your property, then you're stopping it from picking up pollutants and taking it to the waterways, such as fertilizers, pesticides, car oils, etc. We don't want them to get carried away by stormwater runoff. At the same time, it's going to provide habitat for birds and butterflies and beneficial insects, and it's pretty. It's going to add curb appeal to your landscape. If you happen to Google this, you need to be careful because even some of the Florida-friendly landscaping pictures I see are a tiny bit misleading, at least for Hernando County, in that sometimes they show pictures of a rain garden in a swale in front of your home that the county has created. Maybe they have a special permission from the county to do that, but that is county property. That is the right of way. And if you decide there to put it in the swale or the ditch in front of your house, it's very likely going to get mowed over. So make sure you're on your own property, and then you can go from there. Some of the elements are, you can mix different flowering plants, sedges, rushes, grasses. Native plants are always a great choice. Think about bloom time, meaning have different plants in there that bloom at different times. So it's always interesting there. And so your neighbors don't say you just have an unmowed area or something, make it attractive and interesting for everybody who looks at it. Mix different heights, shapes, and textures. You don't want all of the same plant. Diversity, again, diversity is always the key. You can, mulch is great to have in there. Also, some chopped up yard debris and leaves. And rocks, stones, and gravel. A lot of people add that to their rain gardens, to their aquifer recharge gardens. And I'll show you in a little bit how you can actually create a dry creek bed. And a lot of people use that as the path for the water to go to terminate there in the rain garden. The kind of plants, you want sun-thriving plants. Again, plants that like wet feet or dry feet. Low maintenance. You don't want to be a slave to your rain garden. You want it to be a pleasure for you. Remember, we mentioned it's going to attract butterflies. It's going to attract pollinators, birds, things like that. That's one reason we don't want to use insecticides, herbicides, or fertilizer. The other reason is, remember, we're trying to reduce the amount of pollutants that are going to end up either in our aquifer or in our surface water. We don't want to use trees in a rain garden because basically the tree will take over, and it just wouldn't work out in a rain garden situation. As I mentioned, dry creek beds. You can use it by itself, or a lot of people use it as a pathway for the water to be channeled into the rain garden. So it also in itself stops the water from leaving your property, allows it to penetrate the soil, can be very pretty. You know, we don't get that kind of look often in Florida. And also maybe, as we mentioned, those areas where turf just won't grow. There's another thought there as well. You can find out more about rain gardens either by looking back on my videos, or you can actually Google rain garden UF, as in University of Florida, and you can download a publication that gets into a lot of details and even mentions the type of plants that you can use. And it will help you with the plans and the dimensions and the engineering of it. Now let's talk a little bit about rain barrels. First, let me tell you, at least in Hernando County, that's all I can speak for. I would say most of Florida, rain barrels are not illegal. That's one of those urban legends that gets around. It may have been truthful 150 years ago out west, where there was issues with water rights, but most communities now, they want you, to help out and be able to water without using the municipal system. You may have an issue in your particular deed restricted community. So please check with their rules. Sometimes they'll say you can't have it in the front yard, you have to have it hidden in the backyard. Some of them may ban them completely, but in general, for regular, cities, townships, whatever, they're not illegal. Certainly Hernando County itself, they're not illegal. What are we going to use it for? Well, mostly for watering your bedding plants. It is not going to be a good system to water your turf. Even if you tried to add a little pump in there, you're not going to get enough oomph, to water your turf. So it's great for watering those bedding plants, your potted plants. Also, a little added benefit we found out during the various storms that we've had for those of us on wells and on septic tanks, I should say. If you're out of electricity for a while, it may dawn on you, like 55 gallons of water right out there. It's going to help me flush the toilet. One thing I want to make clear, though, it is not drinking water. It is not potable water. So please don't get a rain barrel thinking that water is for drinking. How much water can we capture? It keeps moving ahead for me. About a half a gallon of water per square foot of your roof. Basically, the easiest way to say it is one of our summer rains. If you have that conveyance like that downspout, one of our summer rains is going to fill up a 55-gallon barrel. So, it fills up pretty quickly. Where should you put your rain barrel if you're thinking of getting one? Where's the best place to put it? Adjacent to a building really is the best place for safety, and also so you have that conveyance I talked about. If you put it out in the middle of your yard, it will fill up with rain, but it might take 6 months or a year. So, but you have that downspout going right to it, or even a valley in a roof where you get a lot of runoff there, it's going to fill it right up. So you want it close to a building and close to the area where you plan on utilizing that rainwater. That just makes it so that you will be sure to use it more. Elevation is the key. Elevation, equals gravity. Elevation equals flow in this situation. Now, this bottom picture is not a safe way to elevate your rain barrel. I just kind of put that there. It does represent recycling, that's true. but that is the way not to do it. The top way is much better because they're on a nice solid surface. But the higher you can get it in a safe manner, you know, the more flow that you're going to have. It helps you fill that watering can. What about mosquitoes when it comes to rain barrels? Well, I partner all the time with Hernando County Mosquito Control, and they tell me they've never had a call about a properly installed rain or water barrel, rain barrel, that is causing a mosquito problem. It just doesn't, it has a nice lid on it, a nice screen. Now there are mosquitoes in your gutters, so yeah, they'll find their ways there, but it usually does not cause much of an issue at all. Only the abandoned rain barrels without a lid have ever been a problem with mosquito control. If you are concerned about it, you can go to the store and buy these mosquito dunks. It is made of Bacillus thuringiensis, which is a bacteria that and you can crumble those up and put them inside. Multiple barrels. There's no reason that you can't hook barrels up together. And there are various ways and various functions, all up to your creativity in how to do that. And I'll explain to you, if you take one of our rain barrel workshops, how that could work for you as well. Now let's talk about the rain barrel safety. As I said again, do not drink that water. It is not potable water. Don't drink that water. If you can avoid it, don't allow your pets to drink that water. We're learning a lot more about washing our hands now, aren't we? We are all hand washing experts, so I don't need to go too much into that, but also don't touch your eyes or mouth when you're handling the rain barrel. The rain barrel itself, you can drain it and clean it about once a year. Put a little bit of bleach, scrub it out. If you're not a bleach person, you can use vinegar or just a lot of elbow grease and get it scrubbed out really well. If you're using it for any type of produce or vegetable garden, make sure you wash that produce extremely well. Remember, that's coming off of your roof, and lots of things poop on your roof. So please be very, very careful about using that around any kind of consumptive plants. How long is your rain barrel going to last? That depends on how it's treated, the maintenance, the weather, where it's placed, the platform. This platform on this bottom picture, there's way too much rain barrel hanging off of that platform. That's going to cause issues. It's not supported enough. With rain barrels, they're not that heavy when they're empty. When they're full, that's, 8 pounds per gallon. Could be the equivalent of 2 baby elephants in there. So it has to have a platform that exceeds the diameter of the barrel itself, and that is on a surface that is not going to make it move around. Has to be very well fully supported. How long it lasts also depends on if it has any run-ins with any lawn equipment, and of course, they're plastic, and we're in Florida, so sun exposure can be an issue as well. So remember, when we're talking about rain barrels, we don't want you to drink that water. It's not potable water. Please have that sturdy foundation, and at least have it high enough to get a water can under it, and drain it at least annually. And here's an example of someone who, he used to have my job. He used to be the Florida Friendly Landscaping Program Coordinator. His name is John, but he drank that rain barrel water and we haven't seen him since, so it's not really true. If you are interested in a do-it-yourself type of rain barrel, Here are some sources that will help you. They are put out by the Southwest Florida Water Management District. So here are the first link will take you to a website that has some instructions, and it also has a YouTube video to help you walk along. This second link is actually going to take you to this little guide here, this homeowner's guide to DIY rain barrels. Cisterns are another way to collect water that it's not within my purview to know much about that at all, but I know they are going to collect a lot of water, and they can collect it for landscape irrigation if there's, the right type of system. The rainwater runs off a roof or a downspout into the valley, and eventually into the cistern. It does have a lot greater storage capacity. Sometimes they're in the ground, sometimes they're above the ground. So you're going to get a lot more than you will with a rain barrel or even multiple rain barrels, but that's a much more complicated system. So, I'm not the one to ask about the cisterns or even what the laws and rules in having one here in our county are. So that might require a permit. So you're going to have to do a lot more research if you're considering a cistern. If you'd like a rain barrel, and don't want to build one specifically yourself or have a lot of building to do with it, we do offer them at Hernando County Utilities. I have rain barrel workshops. I just started again last month having them. I will have one on September 25th. It'll be a virtual workshop. And if you're wondering how I'm going to give you a rain barrel through the computer, the pickup of the rain barrels will be the next day at the Hernando County Master Gardener Nursery. These barrels, which look exactly like this, these are the barrels there. They're $50. That is our cost, our bulk cost. So you're really just reimbursing Hernando County Utilities. If you are a customer of ours, if you get your water from us and you've never gotten a rain barrel from us before, you will get a $25 credit on your water bill for attending your first rain barrel workshop and taking your rain barrel home. So what you're looking at there, the first one, is going to cost $25, which, unless you have already items on hand, you're not going to be able to purchase a DIY rain barrel for that cost. To find out more details, because there are more details with this, you have to email me, and I'll be glad to send you the information and a form to send back to me. So please email me at lilyb, LILLYB, at hernandocounty.us, and I will answer you back with all of the details. The workshop on the 25th is going to be a combination workshop. Not only will you have the opportunity to get one of these rain barrels, you will have the opportunity to get a compost bin. And those are from Hernando County Solid Waste, and they are actually free for Hernando County residents. One bin per residence. So if you've already participated in that, you wouldn't be eligible. But if not, that workshop starts at 7, and you would pick up both the barrel and the bin the next day. The barrel you'll have to pay for via check, and I will send you the email with all of that information. And then the bin, you just have to be a Hernando County resident and not have gotten the bin before. So if this interests you, please email me and I will send you all of the information. Otherwise, if you want to do one on your own, we're all for that too. Any kind of water conservation, we're very happy to do. And for the foreseeable future, I will probably be, doing the rain barrel workshops in this manner. Or if we move on to in person, it may be in an outside type of manner as the weather cools down. Thank you for watching our recycling raindrops. Now, when I've mentioned the rain barrel workshop, you do have to attend a rain barrel workshop to participate in getting a rain barrel. Not only pay for the rain barrel, but attend a different workshop from this one. This one is just for educational purposes and doesn't qualify you to buy a rain barrel from us. But thank you very much for joining us, and we hope you have a good weekend and you continue to recycle those raindrops. Thank you very much and have a good day.